Welcome to Amanta's Small Business Expert Series webinar today. We're happy to have you with us, and there are a lot of you. My name is Karen Austin, and I'm your host today for Amanta's Small Business Expert Series about social media. Amanta wants to thank Main Street Hub for sponsoring today's webinar, as well as social media expert Susan Tucker for generously donating her time and expertise. We hope you'll tweet about today's event. It is a social media event using the hashtag MantaExperts. We always start with a greeting from our CEO, John Swansinger. You can, by the way, open the resource list that's on your screen to see John's blog post about social media. Here's John.
Hi, I'm John Swansinger, CEO of Manta. Thank you for joining our Small Business Expert Series. These events are designed to engage, educate, and inspire small business owners. Our recent social media survey tells us more than half of you aren't getting a return on your social media efforts. We want to help you turn that around. Today's event takes a look at rapid changes happening in social media and how you can take advantage of them. I know you'll walk away from today's program with fresh ideas for reaching new customers and strategic plans for getting a return on your social media efforts. You may also have questions. Let us know. We appreciate your insight in guiding us to create the content you need to be successful. During the webinar, please be sure to click on the Resources tab at the bottom of the page to register for upcoming events. You will also find links to our small business community and our new content pages filled with tips and advice. See you next month.
Great, thank you, John. So back to me, in case you missed it earlier, I'm Karen Austin, your host for today's webinar. I want to take a few minutes to cover some important housekeeping items about our event. Let's first talk about your screen. During the webinar, you should see a slide area, which you can resize. It says hello right now, that's the slide area. You can resize that to make it bigger. Just to the left of that is the media player. Under that is a box called the resource list, and you should see some widgets. They're usually at the bottom of the screen, but placement does depend on what type of device you're using to view the webinar today. So all of those widgets open and close, and I encourage you to check them out. I want to point out 3 widgets in particular. The resource list, which I just mentioned, I just put the Manta logo up there so that it would bring your attention to it. I'll be referring to the resource list quite often today because there are items there such as links and documents that you can check out during the webinar while we're talking. If you're having technical difficulties, please click on that question mark for technical questions if you can't hear, if something's not working properly. Mel is answering your questions there, and she's got quite a few people here today, so she may take a minute to get to you, but she will. And the other Q&A I want you to pay attention to is the Q&A question widget, which is where you'll ask your questions today about social media. You can type those questions in at any time. We won't answer them until the end of the webinar, but we will be checking them and we'll make sure to get to them at the end of the webinar, the last 15 or 20 minutes. Directly after the webinar, our expert Susan is going to hang around for a live tweet in case you want to ask some additional questions there. Heather is going to lead that, and I'll give you directions at the end of today's event. Of course, we are recording the event. We will send you the link tomorrow. And once again, I want to thank Main Street Hub for sponsoring today's event. On that resource list, you'll find several links to Main Street Hub content. Please check it out. And all right, let's get down to business about social media. We also always start our webinars with a story about why we're here. So why are we talking about social media and pay to play today? The headline on your screen on the right, "There is no more social media, just advertising," really tells the story about why we're addressing social media today as a pay-to-play opportunity rather than what we've come to think of as a free resource. Next to that is a portion of an infographic that Manta released this week that tells us small business owners aren't getting great return on their social media investment. You can link to that survey on the resource list to find out all about it. But you'll see that it mentions Facebook as getting the most likes but not the greatest return, and also highlights a well-known story that small business doesn't have a lot of cash to spend. So we're going to talk about all of that today. The fact is, you should be looking at social media as an advertising opportunity, and you will need to spend more there than you have in the past. Why? Because your customers are there and your competition's there. So speaking of spending more money, you'll notice I just put something up on the screen that talks about a BIA Kelsey survey that tells us U.S. social media and revenues are going to reach $15 billion by 2018. There's a link to that on the resource list as well. As small business owners, it's important that you know how to take advantage of and understand paid social media to grow your social reach. So we're going to talk about the basics of that today. Here's what we'll talk about. Here's what it looks like today. We'll talk about how to advertise on social media without needing those deep pockets, without having to spend a lot of money. Our expert, Susan Tucker, who you'll meet in just a minute, works with small business owners helping them advertise online. We're going to do a couple of polls because we want your opinions also. And as you can see, we'll cover social media's current climate. We'll talk about why it's important to create specific goals and strategies that are built around your overall marketing goals. And Susan will share the advertising basics of 3 platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and provide examples of small business campaigns. As always, we'll take your questions the last 15 minutes or so of the hour. Ask your questions using that Q&A widget that I mentioned anytime during the webinar. So this is Susan Tucker. Susan Tucker is a social media consultant, a small business owner, and a self-proclaimed marketing geek. She really likes this stuff. She's the owner of Get Susan Marketing in Boulder, Colorado, and she comes from a background of marketing, advertising, and print ad sales. So she's been helping small business owners on both sides with their advertising needs really since print was king, and she now helps them plan, navigate, and achieve their social media goals. Susan's clients rave about her personal approach and easy-to-understand methods. I want you to click on the speaker widget to learn more about Susan. There's an in-depth bio there of her, and you can also check out her social media links, etc. We're going to talk to Susan in just a minute, but first I want to get to know a little bit more about you. So I'm going to bring up a survey. And while I'm bringing up that survey, I want to just talk a little bit about social media and the survey that we asked Manta members about earlier this month. So here's the question. Are you willing to spend money to promote your business on social media? You can go ahead and submit your answers, and we'll take a look in a minute and see who's answered. Oh, look at that. Wow. Okay, so while I'm getting all excited about your answers, but I want to talk to you about them first. So that survey that I mentioned told us that the small business owners who answered that question are split 50-50 on whether or not they're willing to spend money to promote their businesses. But we also asked them their goals for social media, and their primary goals for social media were to get new customers, to get new leads, to market to their regular customers, all of those things that you use traditional advertising for. So when we saw that the goals were the same, but that people were less willing to spend money on social media, it made us wonder why there's so much resistance to paying for promoting businesses online. Let me show you the answer for you guys. Clearly, you're a little different than the audience that answered our survey. Most of you look like 86% of you who answered the survey are willing to spend money to promote your business on social media. So let's talk about that. We're going to give you some ways to do that. But I also want to ask Susan why she thinks we had so much resistance to that 50-50 split on our other survey. So welcome, Susan, and you and I have talked at length about this. Why do you think so many people who answered the survey are willing to spend money to promote their business on social media, but also this is really great news that so many people here are willing to spend money. So let's talk about all of that. Welcome, Susan.
Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you, Karen, and to Manta for having me here today, and thank you to everyone who decided to join us. I really do get excited talking about social media with small business owners. I think that people think that social media should be free because it mostly has been since inception, and they're not willing to pay because they don't really understand yet just how powerful it can be. People don't understand that you can track it, follow it, tweak it. You can be more budget conscious with social media than with traditional methods. Even with other online methods of advertising, it's definitely a lot easier to be more budget conscious. The question is, why has social media become pay to play when it was free for so long? Well, 76% of all online adults now use social media. So the short answer is the space is quite simply getting crowded. Everyone is seeking attention in the social world. Organic reach for Facebook has been on a steady decline since 2013, and most recently hit a low of 2.6% reach. Twitter, LinkedIn, and the others have similarly low numbers. The limiting factors on all platforms is that there's more content that is shared, the harder it is to consume it all. So even if you have likes, fans, followers, they may not be seeing your posts. But you still need to be on social media because it's not about what you're doing, it's about what your customers are doing. And 9 times out of 10, your customers are already there, and you're just lagging behind. Social advertising is really going to help you get into the game at a faster rate.
Right. So let's talk specifically then, Susan, about paid social media, about what it is, and about how it's used.
Okay, well, PPC stands for pay per click, and it's a model of internet marketing in which advertisers pay a fee each time one of their ads is clicked. Essentially, it's a way of buying visits to your site rather than attempting to earn them organically. Everything that I run for my clients is pay per click because the value in tracking when someone responds to an ad can really help you hone in on your messaging and your offers because you can really see what works and what doesn't work. There are 4 types of paid ad campaigns available on most social media platforms. You've got branding campaigns, which is to promote your page for more likes or followers. You've got targeted product campaigns when you want to push a particular product or service. You've got event campaigns. You've got lead generation campaigns when your goal is to capture new leads by advertising an offer that is form gated. So someone would give you an email address in order to gain access to something that you have available, and then they can go into your leads funnel.
Okay, great. So Susan, I remember when you and I were talking previously, you mentioned one of these types of campaigns. It was a Pilates studio. Can you tell us about what they did recently?
Yeah, sure thing. So an example of a targeted product campaign I did with a Pilates studio I work with in California. We had an ad set up for folks to claim an offer where we targeted towards moms that were in the area. We set up our parameters, which were moms within 20 miles of the studio who had stated that they have an interest in health and wellness. We did this on Facebook. We set up the campaign as a post, a regular Facebook post as an offer, and then we ended up boosting the post. We boosted the post for $5 and for a couple of days, and so far it has 7 offers have claimed. These offers are valued at $99 each. So for $5, so far we've gotten 7 of them. That's a pretty good ROI.
Yeah, $5 for nearly 700. I would say that's a great ROI, and I'm sure they were very happy.
Yes, I think so.
So Susan and I have talked a lot about strategy and goals, and what Susan tells her clients is that you'll see greater engagement and ROI with a solid strategy. So she's going to tell you about her thoughts on strategy and give you some tools to creating your social media strategy.
So people think you have to just be there and that's all. As long as you have a company page, that's enough, but it's not. With an increase in competition and the decline in organic reach, companies have to start being more strategic with how they use their social presence. Basically, it's unused real estate that you can really take advantage of. If you've set a goal for your company, you can use social media advertising to really help achieve these goals. Goals are going to also help keep an entire organization working together toward the same objective. I recommend setting SMART goals, which are being specific, clear about what you want to accomplish, measurable, attach metrics that can be monitored, attainable, set a goal that's challenging but possible to reach, relevant, ensure that your goals tie into your overall company targets, and timely, give yourself a realistic deadline. Setting SMART goals is definitely important. You also need to understand your customers. What social media channels are they most likely to be on? What types of information are they gathering? And what kind of problems can you solve for them? Once you have a better understanding of who you're trying to get in front of and what you want from them, you can start to set goals and map out your campaigns. Because every social advertising platform offers something unique, and every type of ad will have its own variation of fluctuations in engagement, reach, and clicks. It really is important to map your goals out to a specific campaign and to a specific platform. Mapping out a campaign could look something like this. First, you're going to identify your audience. Is it a B2B, B2C? Which channel are they going to be on? Determine your objective. Is it going to be branding, product promotion, local awareness? Set your budget. How much is a new lead worth to you, and what is your overall budget, or what is your overall budget? Put together creative. Again, think about your target customer and how you're going to address a need for them, and create several variations, test, tweak, and run again. An example of mapping out a campaign could be if you run a retail shop and you want to boost the sales for the holidays. You can strategically run a contest at the beginning of the shopping season and offer a giveaway to capture contact information. You can plan out which platform to add the contest to based on where your customers are, decide how long you want to run the contest, and figure out what you want your end results to be. For example, if you wanted 500 entries with the goal of converting 10% of those into product sales, that could be a good way to map out the campaign. And again, I'll be sharing more ideas on mapping later in this presentation.
Great. Okay, so Susan, thank you. I want to say thank you for providing your Smart Marketing Goals template for our webinar attendees today. You can get Susan's Smart Marketing Goals template through a link on the resource widget, and Susan is going to capture your information when she sends that to you, and then you'll be on her list as well. So you heard Susan mention several times about getting on the right platform for your customers. So I want to do a quick poll before we jump into the next part of the webinar, in which we're going to talk about the different platforms, what they offer, some examples. We're going to be very Facebook heavy, but I want to first ask you this question, and here's another poll. What social media platform do your customers use most often? Do you know the answer? Please tell us. Because that's where you're going to start. You're going to start with wherever your customers are versus where you are. So I'm going to give it just a couple more seconds. And if you haven't answered yet, go ahead and answer. I see a whole bunch more people coming in. Let me give it just a few more seconds. We're at more than 50% of the audience who's answered the question. So I'll tell you what they said, and I don't think it's going to be a huge surprise to you. Oh, look at that, Susan. There are more people that aren't sure than there are people who are on Facebook.
Wow, that's interesting.
It is interesting. Okay. Well, good. Then Susan's going to tell you how to figure out where they are, and we're going to talk about the different platforms. So just go to I'm going to go to the next slide, and we're going to talk about the platforms. So I thought the winner was going to be Facebook, but the winner is I'm not sure. So this is going to be really good information for you. We're going to talk extensively about advertising on Facebook in the next few minutes. We're going to cover Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, as I mentioned earlier. Susan's going to show you some real-world examples. She's going to talk to you about how to hyper-target on each platform. And we've also been, Susan's given us a link to an article that she wrote about how to choose the right social media site for your customers. So you can click on that link and check that story out. You'll want to do that after the webinar, read it. I know one of the things that Susan says sometimes about her small business customers is that they don't do their homework as often as they should, and she wants to make sure that they're doing their due diligence. So check out that article about how to choose the right social media site to find your customers. Okay, so Susan, we all know Facebook's consistently the biggest social media player. It came up over and over in our survey. Tell us why it's always Facebook that's the winner when we do a poll like that.
Well, Facebook definitely reaches the largest audience. It gets in front of 71% of all online adults. And it has an impressive database of demographic, psychographic, and geographic information of its users. Basically, it's a beast. It's been around since 2004, and during that time, they've been capturing all this data about people, which is great for marketers. It's a little creepy maybe for privacy reasons, but it's really great for marketers. But the reason why it's the biggest player is because it's been around for a long time. The majority of folks that are online use Facebook, and it's also pretty easy to use if you're going to do some advertising there.
Right. And so I wanted to mention to our audience that when we did our social media survey, with Manta's social media survey that you can link to on the resource list, we also learned that quite a few people said that they were either not using social media, they haven't started yet, or they were just getting started. So I've put up a link on the resource list to Facebook's Business Page Basics, because everything that we're talking about today is for Facebook business pages. This will not work for your personal page. So you've got to get that Facebook business page, and if you don't have that yet, go to the Business Page Basics, check it out. And in the meantime, we're going to show you some ways to access Facebook and advertise on Facebook. Facebook begins the advertising process by asking you to select an objective. So they want you to define your desired end result. We're going to walk you through creating a Facebook ad in just a minute, but first here's a quick look at the objectives that Facebook provides for you. Susan, will you tell us about those?
Yeah, sure thing. When you log into on the back end, you're going to be able to choose between sending people to your website, increasing conversions on your website. You're going to be able to boost your posts that are on your Facebook business page. You're going to be able to promote your Facebook business page. If you happen to create an app, you can either get installs of your app or increase app engagement. You can reach people near your business, which is a local ad, and those are actually really cool. We're going to look at those a little bit later. You can raise event attendance. You can get people to claim an offer, like in the example I shared previously, or you can get video views.
You may have seen recently some news about Facebook adding a call to action. So there's a click to call and a get directions with all the changes with mobile and the need for mobile marketing. This is a really good option for people. And Susan will tell you about an ad campaign that she used to get directions as part of that local ad campaign. So this slide that I just put up is an example of a local ad that Susan created for one of her businesses in Boulder, Colorado. Susan, want to tell us about it?
Yeah. This is an ad that I created for a store that sells pottery downtown Boulder. Around the holidays, we decided to do a little test of the objective of reaching people near your business. So I was able to go in on the back end and set up this ad. We targeted folks that were within 3 miles of the store. You know, again, it was on a weekend during the holidays. We put a budget of $10 to it. On the back end, we saw that the ad actually reached 1,600 people, and it resulted in 15 clicks of folks that actually clicked on it to get directions to the store. So that's an example of one of those reach people near your business ads.
Okay. This one, this is another example of a Facebook ad with a different objective, and I have to tell you, every time I see this picture, I want to hop on a plane to Boulder and check out that pool. Susan tells me that pool has been there since the 1900s. So Susan, tell us about this campaign.
Yeah, this is an ad that I've run for a company that has a pool, but they also deliver fresh Colorado water to a certain region here in Colorado along the Front Range. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to promote their page to this certain geographical area. We have a budget that's constantly running where we budget $1 a day, so $30 a month. We change out our creatives just to get people to like our page. What it's resulted in is we get tons of new likes on a regular basis that have cost us less than 50 cents per like. And then once folks go to the page, you can actually sign up to get water delivery or sign up to learn more about water delivery. And we've noticed a huge increase in how many people clicked on the sign up button on the call to action on the actual page itself since we started running these like campaigns. So a new customer can sign up for water delivery for $19, starting at $19 a month. We're getting 2 to 3 of those a week, and it's a pretty inexpensive way to get new clients, get your reach out there.
Okay, Susan, and so they're signing up for these new water deliveries directly on that Facebook page, right?
Directly on the page after they like it. So we're attracting the new likes, and then they go to the page, and then I guess they sign up. So it's good.
And prior to running this campaign, you weren't getting a lot of new signups, right?
No, we were not. Not as many as we've been getting recently.
And is the client happy with this particular effort?
Well, they told me that they have noticed a 19% increase in sales overall from last year around this time, and that he does attribute it to a lot of our Facebook advertising.
Well, and if they're signing up directly from Facebook, then you can certainly attribute it to that effort.
Yeah, definitely.
So cool. Okay, so let's go on to actually creating Facebook ads. It's not a difficult process, and Susan's going to actually walk you through creating an ad on Facebook, and we're going to use that same Eldorado Spring Water Company with the cool pool to show you how that ad was created. So Susan, you want to walk us through?
Sure. So this is when you log into your Facebook and you navigate over to creating an ad, that's going to give you the option to choose an objective, and we talked about our objectives before. For Eldorado Springs, our objective was to promote our page. Then we went to the next step.
Okay. And that next step
is to choose your audience. And so, as I mentioned before, we need to target a specific geographical region. So I put in zip codes, I put in different cities, or within a certain mileage of a particular city. You can also in this area choose gender, whether they are homeowners, and what their lifestyle choices are, or if they're moms or dads or divorced or whatever. You can choose your audience on this page. After you choose your audience, you can choose your budget. And you have the ability to do an overall campaign budget. So let's say you have $100 to promote a particular event or a particular product. You can do a lifetime budget, or you can do a per-day budget. For Eldorado Springs, I have $1 per day going, so I like to do that one. You can also optimize for page likes or just for general branding, and then you can set a schedule, so you can run your ads all the time like I do with these folks, or you can run it on a schedule to stop in a week. And then on the right-hand side, it'll show you your estimated daily reach.
Okay, so this says estimated daily reach is 160,000. If you guys can't see, it's 220 to 580 people of 160,000. And that's an estimate, and that slides up and down, right, Susan, depending on how targeted you are and how much money you're spending?
That's correct.
Is there any sort of rule of thumb, a budgeting rule of thumb for small business owners when they get to this point?
Yeah, well, according to a recent Nielsen report, paid social media advertising is increasingly being viewed as an integrated tactic. 66% of advertisers indicated that they use paid social media advertising in combination with other online advertising. And 51% of advertisers have indicated that they run it in conjunction with offline advertising. Social media ad spends are expected to hit 19.5% of total marketing budgets by 2017. So I don't know that there's a specific rule of thumb. I think that a small business owner needs to think about what their budget is to get a message out and then decide how much money they want to put towards the social media part of it in their overall advertising umbrella.
Okay. So you really have to back into it depending on how much you're willing to spend on getting a new face on your page and whatever your other goal is, right?
That's what I think, yes.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about actually creating the ad.
Yeah, so after you've determined your objective and your budget and your targeting, then you're going to just set up your ad. And Facebook has a really sophisticated platform. You can choose different images. They can rotate through the images, and it really walks you through the process of what you want your text to be and what and it'll show you how it's going to look on desktop or mobile. So, after you've decided everything, you create your ad and you get it going.
I want to remind everybody we're having some really good questions come in while Susan's speaking today. It's all really good information. I just want to remind everybody that you can type those questions into the Q&A now, and Mel and Graham are monitoring your questions, and we're going to be getting to those shortly in the next 10 or 15 minutes so that we can answer all your questions. I don't want you to forget your question and not type it in, so go ahead and type it in as soon as you think of it. All right, so Susan, show us how you measure results using Facebook.
Yeah, so this is the back end of a different advertising campaign that I have run for El Dorado Springs. It's really easy to track everything, your results on the back end. This is a boosted post we ran for 2 days. It had a $10 budget. The results showed that there were 44 social actions, so people either liked the page or shared the post. But what was most exciting about this particular ad campaign is that there were 55 post clicks. The average cost per click was 25 cents per click, and this ad was a direct call for new signups. So that $10 resulted in 55 clicks for new signups. So even if only one of those resulted in a new customer for El Dorado Springs, that ad way more than paid for itself. The question I always say is, how much is a new customer worth to you? And you have to say 25 cents is pretty darn inexpensive to get a new customer. So Facebook really helps you do that and shows you on the back end how it's all working.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, we know our small business owners don't have very, unlimited deep pockets for this. So being able to sort of play around with it for not a lot of money is enlightening and can be very effective. By the way, Susan has given us access to what she calls her social media ad savvy checklist. You can open the resource list, that resource widget, to click on that. It'll download for you in a PDF, that particular checklist. So before we finish up with Facebook, Susan's going to talk about hyper-targeting and how you can actually target who you want to target using your Facebook page.
Yeah, Facebook has, again, as I mentioned earlier, they've been collecting data on users since 2004. And if you think about it, the users of Facebook are readily and easily giving them information about their lives. They say what kind of books they like, and they say what kind of brands they want to follow. And they're very, whether they're single or married or whatever, they're sharing that information very happily with Facebook. So as a result, marketers can really take advantage of that, and you can hyper-target. Not only can you target with a general target such as location, gender, their relationship, their workplace, their education, their lifestyle, you can hyper-target, you can target based on an email list. You can upload your email list of contacts. You can target those folks, or you can create what they call a look-alike list and target people that have similar characteristics of your current email list. There are really a million ways that you can target. You can on Facebook, and I would recommend everyone just kind of take a look on the back end and play around. But again, the most important thing is to think about who your customer is, and think beyond the obvious, like they're located within 3 miles of me. Maybe they like Whole Foods. Does your customer have the similar demographical information of someone that would like Whole Foods? And then target people who like Whole Foods. Those are the really fun things that you can do with Facebook.
Great. Susan, I know one of the things we talked about earlier is actually targeting using your email list, and one of the things you can do with your email list, as we mentioned earlier, is to ask your customers which social media platforms they use, and I just wanted to throw that out there. So let's go on to Twitter. So we've covered Facebook pretty extensively. The other thing I wanted to say, and Susan will tell you this, Facebook changes minute to minute. They've probably changed since we started talking. So it's really important to stay up to date with what Facebook's doing, and we'll answer questions about that if you need us to. So Susan, talk to us about this other animal called Twitter that's completely different than Facebook, but also effective.
Yeah, Twitter, people either love Twitter or they don't really get it. But for those of us who get it and who use it regularly, and of course our target customers who use it regularly, it can be very effective. They boast 271 million active users across mobile and desktop, and that's not too shabby for small business owners hoping to make an impact with their ad message. Twitter's ad formats are much more straightforward than those offered by Facebook. They are broken into 3 formats. You can do a promoted tweet, which is an ad that appears in a user's timeline just like an organic tweet does. You can do a promoted account. These are ads that appear on the left-hand side of Twitter alongside other suggested accounts that users can follow based on certain algorithms. Or you can do a promoted trend, which is similar to a promoted account because it appears on the left-hand side of the sidebar of Twitter. And these will often appear at the very top of a list of topics that are currently trending on Twitter. So this placement makes them an ideal opportunity to reach a vast number of users and dominate the conversation around a given topic.
Okay, so let's show you an example of this. And by the way, this is Susan promoted the webinar today. And I'm happy to tell you that I checked at 1 o'clock this afternoon, and there were 2,200 people registered for our social media webinar. So clearly, we're all doing something correctly. But Susan, tell us about this promoted tweet that you did about the webinar.
So this is a promoted tweet that I set up on the back end of Twitter. They give you, you can do several variations. So I chose to do 2 different variations. I chose some targeting. I wanted to target small business owners in the U.S., and then I targeted based on the hashtag social media. I budgeted $10 for this, and I ended up having 31 clicks that cost me 32 cents per click, and I had 5,771 impressions. So I think that's, 32 cents per click, especially if you're going to do a lead generation campaign. That's, again, very inexpensive to capture a new lead.
And for those of you who are new to Twitter and want to know more about it and how it works for business, I did put a link to the Twitter's business page basics on the resource list. Now Susan's going to talk to us about hyper-targeting using Twitter because it can be very similar to what Facebook offers, but it's also different in a couple of ways. Susan?
Yeah, just like with Facebook, you can do some hyper-targeting on Twitter. You can target your followers. You can target users that are like your followers, location keywords. You can do tailored audiences, gender. You can target based on hashtags, which is what I did with my promoted tweet, which I think is really interesting. If you have a ton of people talking about a specific topic, you can get in on the conversation and target these folks with an ad. So there's a lot more hyper-targeting options on Twitter, and just like with Facebook, I'm sure it changes on a daily basis. So be sure to check out all the different options.
And just as a reminder, if you're tweeting today, use the hashtag MantaExperts. And also at the end of the webinar, if you have some questions and want to ask those On Twitter, Susan will be there right after the webinar, and again, you'll be using that hashtag MantaExperts. So we've covered Twitter in the basics. Now we're going to talk about a different social media platform, LinkedIn, which many people think is really just for job seekers and headhunters, and you just throw your resume up there. That is not the case, and Susan's going to tell you why.
LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network. So for B2B advertisers, this is really the place to be. It offers valuable opportunities to help get your message in front of the right people. This network reaches 28% of Internet users, and most of those are there for professional reasons. And they also have excellent targeting options. LinkedIn ads are broken into 3 different formats. They have sponsored updates, which are ads that appear alongside organic content in a user's newsfeed. They offer a display ad, which appears on the right-hand side of a user screen, and they're usually displayed along other side ads. And they also started recently offering what they call direct sponsored content, which gives marketers an ability to share content to the LinkedIn homepage newsfeed without first publishing the content on a company page or showcase page. So you can really personalize your message and test variations of your content and control how it shows up on the company page. So those are the 3 different options for LinkedIn.
Okay, Susan is going to also tell us about a very interesting campaign that she did with one of her clients on LinkedIn.
Yeah, this was a campaign that I did for a company that offers training solutions for industrial type businesses. So they train like oil and gas employees. And they work with these big organizations. Well, Canada recently, I guess in the past year, started this action plan, this grant program, where they are giving employers money to train their workforce. So we thought that this could be a good opportunity to educate potential industries and organizations on what the training program was, and also train their workforce using Canada's grant money. We ended up setting up a specific landing page so that we could capture leads, and we used a marketing offer where we allowed them a download so they can learn more about the grant program. So we set up an ad, we set up the landing page, we created an ad on LinkedIn, and we targeted the specific industry and the country to drive people to our landing page so we can collect new contacts. It resulted in 150 new contacts.
Now, you mentioned earlier to me that it's a little more expensive on LinkedIn.
It is. It is more expensive. This particular campaign cost us $4.02 per click, which is a lot more than obviously the Facebook and Twitter ads we've been talking about. But I think it's, they have a higher, the product that they're selling it costs a lot more than selling, a piece of pottery. So I think that LinkedIn has tapped into that businesses have higher targeting, so they charge more for it.
And this did result in some bona fide customers for them, and not just the 150 contacts. I can't remember how many you told me, but you told me that there were some trends.
Yeah, they got a couple of new clients out of it.
Yeah.
They got a couple new clients out of it, and and they also got those contacts into their lead funnel, so we continue to market to those folks.
Excellent. So just like with LinkedIn or with Twitter and Facebook, I have put up some basics, a link to the basics for LinkedIn business pages, so you can click on that in the resources list. And Susan's going to also share with us the hyper-targeting options available on LinkedIn.
Yeah, on LinkedIn you can target by job titles. So if you want to get all the presidents of of different companies, you can target by industry, geography, company size. But the most exciting one to me is that you can target based on group membership. So for example, my target is small business owners, maybe in the Boulder area. I mean, I work with businesses beyond, but one of the groups that I've targeted is the Boulder Chamber Group with one of my ads. So it's small business owners here in Boulder, and I'm able to target those folks in that particular group, and it's a good audience for me. So the group membership, just thinking about, again, thinking about where your customer is, what kind of group could they be a part of, you could target that group.
Great. So like for example, if I were on groups about webinars in LinkedIn, which by the way I am, you would target me if you had some webinar products that you wanted to push or
Absolutely.
some contacts that you wanted to make. Okay, great. So we are at the end of our information, but we are certainly not at the end of the webinar because we've had so far, looks like more than 70 questions come in. So we probably are not going to get to all of them. We're going to start answering them now. Those emails or those questions are also emailed to me, and we will answer them via email if we don't get to them today. And as I mentioned, you can go to Twitter afterward to ask some questions, and you can also connect with other business owners in the Manta community. There's a link to the Manta community on the resource list. And our community is a great place to talk to other business owners about what they're doing. Susan may appear there to answer questions as well. So, Susan, let's start with the question that's at the top of the list right at the moment. It's, do you recommend how many times you should post and tweet a day? And any recommended times of the day?
Well, there are definitely different rules of thumb about that. I mean, generally speaking, I would say you should at least Facebook once a day, and they say 5 to 7 times a day you should tweet. However, every audience is different, and I really think it's important for small business owners to play around with that to kind of see what kind of response you get. The best time of day to send your messages, you know, again, you should look at your own insights and analytics and kind of figure out when your followers are online and then schedule posts around that and then test it all out. But I think that they say that in the afternoons is really the best time on Facebook. On LinkedIn, it's during the workday. On Twitter, you can really do it at any time. I think that they've said that there's a surge in people that are on Twitter right after work or when they're stuck in rush hour. They're on their phones tweeting about things. So, but I think you need to figure out what's best for your audience.
Okay. So here's another question, and this is one that you probably hear quite often. Do Facebook likes mean anything, and how do you convert likes to sales?
Well, that's when you really need to think about, you know, a whole digital marketing strategy. I mean, likes don't mean anything unless it's a really targeted like for you, and they can convert to sales if you entice them to become a sale. I think, you know, one of the things I consult my clients on is to make sure that you capture an email address, because then you can actually market to them in a different way, because not everything's going to get shown on Facebook unless you promote a post. So yes, they can convert. It's really at the high top of the funnel of your entire marketing strategy, but they can eventually trickle down to become sales.
Okay. Here's another question. This is a good question. Once the demographics for the audience you're targeting has been set, how are the people able to see the ad? Is there an inbox message sent to them, or does it show up in their news feed? How's that work?
For Facebook, I'm assuming we're speaking specifically.
I'm assuming let's go ahead and just answer it per Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, so Facebook will give you an option so that you can show how you're going to show your ad. So if it's a boosted post, for example, it's going to show up in someone's feed or, you know, along with their organic posts. If you set it up like an ad, it'll show along the right-hand side. So it's just going to be it's not going to email them. It's just going to be within their Facebook when they log in, either on the right-hand side or within their feed.
Okay. I have a question that's really going to be answered in our next webinar, so I'm just going to throw it out there. Facebook is now considered uncool for young people. How do you transition to cooler platforms like Instagram, and how do you gauge success rate on Instagram? We're going to come back to that one, and I'm going to hold it for next month. Because we're going to be talking specifically about marketing to millennials during our webinar next month. And our guest is 22 years old. He's already been in some major magazines across the country. He knows a lot about how exactly to get to this younger audience. So I hope we'll that you'll attend, and we'll answer that question. In the meantime, we'll send you an answer to it also via email. Now, I have a couple questions, Susan, about the use of hashtags. Talk about the effective use of hashtags. Do people get annoyed with hashtags? Can you overuse them? What's your thought about that?
Yes. Well, hashtags, they're definitely more accepted on Twitter and Instagram than they are on Facebook. Facebook recently rolled it out so that you can use them, but people are not really getting on that bandwagon. They can be effective because if you think about all 271 million users on Twitter, for example, it's impossible for like I have 16,000 followers on my Twitter, and I follow 15,000 people, so I can't keep track of everything that's going on in my particular feed. So the way I get in on a conversation that I'm interested in, such as social media or inbound marketing, is I use the hashtag. So then I can connect with other people that I may or may not follow, and they may or may not follow me, but we're all talking about the same conversation. So it allows you to become a part of a global conversation around one specific topic. I think you can use too many of them. I usually recommend, no more than 3 in a Twitter post, and definitely no more than 1 in a Facebook post. Instagram has a little more lax rules about that. I've seen people use 11 to 13. So you just have to play around and figure out what you're comfortable with. Yeah.
So Tom had a question. He asked, most of this appears to be B2C oriented. Is social media as affected with B2B?
Yes. I have found that, especially with LinkedIn, getting involved in conversation and being social on LinkedIn has definitely increased my business for me, and I'm B2B. Also, Twitter has been very effective for me to find my target customers and to help grow my business. So I say yes.
Okay. Another question about contests and giveaways. What are some contest ideas that have worked for you in the past for your clients?
I've run a couple of contests. We ran for Eldorado Springs. I know I talked about them during that. I worked with them for a while. We ran a Snap, Share, and Win giveaway last summer where people would snap a photo of their bottle or something with an Eldorado Springs logo, and they won free pool passes. So we got a lot of engagement with that. I think that there's, if you do photo uploads or you get people to share their images, that's, pretty popular. If you do a product giveaway, just to get people to talk about you, they're pretty effective. You just have to think about what your customers would be willing to do and where they are.
Okay. Well, these are really great questions. Gregory asked, for someone who's not currently using Facebook ads, what are the most useful initial goals, and is there a logical order to those goals?
I think the way I usually like to start out when I start working with new clients is I like to start by building up their likes. So I like to promote their page. And then I build campaigns to help reinforce the new likes, so like boosting a post to the people that like my page. But I think you would start out with just getting more people to like your page with specific targets if you can do that on the back end, if you want to just get people, maybe start off with a lookalike list of your current email list. And those are very effective and inexpensive. So build up your likes and then build things around that.
Okay. So Matt asks, and he said, by the way, hi, Susan, do you have any tips on how to best market an event on social media? For example, if we're holding classes or having a booth at an expo. Any tips about that?
I would create an event on Facebook, promote it to your followers, and then beyond that, I would make sure that you make it super easy for people to sign up to follow your page at the event. I think you just need to, do a countdown like 6 weeks out, just kind of really promote it, invite everybody that you know to join the event on your page and, work your way down to the event. I hope that answers your question.
Well, and that's an example of mapping it out, right? You start mapping it out with a timeline. You're going to start 6 weeks out or 8 weeks out and decide if you're going to have a giveaway at that event and then push that and do that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Scott said, I've done several ads on Facebook and set a budget, but they always charge my card more than the budget. Do you have that experience, and how can that be avoided?
I have had that experience, but it's never gone so much over that I was, startled by it. I think what they do is they end up, they charge it on a timeline. So let's say you have a $100 budget, and it's supposed to end on Monday at midnight, but at the beginning of the day on Monday it's at $98, and then you just happen to go over that by the time they charge it again. So I would tighten it up so that it, just to kind of give it a little bit of flex in between. So maybe stop it at $95 rather than $100, so that if it goes over, it's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. And I also would think that, with Facebook now has the real time, you can talk to an agent while you're on Facebook. Maybe that's a good question for them right there too. Okay, Ian is asking, what platforms would a business use to target elementary through high school educators and administrators? And any idea?
I would probably check out LinkedIn groups and see if there are any groups for educators, which I'm sure there are. My husband is an educator, and I know he's a part of some groups. I'm not sure off the top of my head if Facebook offers an option to target educators, but I think you can make target by industry on Facebook, but you'll have to double check that. They change a lot. I would first check LinkedIn, and then I would check Facebook. Beyond that, I'm not really sure.
Okay, great. I think that's a really good direction. That particular question from Ian also asked about crowdfunding for educators. Ian, I'm going to send you to our March webinar, which was all about crowdfunding, and you can ask a question through that platform, and you can also go to our community and ask our expert on crowdfunding that question as well, and he'll be able to help with that. His name is Joe. Monica wanted to know, Facebook has some new ad changes to campaigns called Threshold. Are you familiar with this change?
I'm not.
Okay. So we'll check it out and get back to you.
Probably happened like overnight.
Yeah, probably happened while yeah, right. So Barbara asked on the like ad, and I think that was the one for the ceramics. Do you change the ad you run every 30 days, or do you use the same one all the time?
No, I absolutely change the ad more often than 30 days because ad fatigue is real. People do not respond to ads that they see over and over again. In fact, I would set up the same type of ad with like 3 or 4 variations and rotate through those.
Okay.
And change that even, and then even change that regularly.
So I have a good question from Leanna, and she's asking, can you give more detail about what exactly reach means and what exactly boost does?
So Facebook, I'll do the boost answer first. Facebook's organic reach, I guess I could do the reach first. So if I put a message out there, because of their algorithms, they won't necessarily show my message to everybody because they don't want people to get, there's so many people trying to share messages. So Facebook's reach is how many people are actually going to have a chance to see what you post. When you boost a post, you are giving it your Facebook, since you're paying for it, Facebook has to make sure it's being shown to more people. So you're boosting it in order to guarantee that it will get shown in front of the people that you want it to get shown in front of. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
It does. So we are at, we're almost right at the hour. I'm going to ask one more question, Susan, and then I'm going to urge everybody to go over to Twitter so that we can answer some more questions. This one's from Diana. Is it possible to target specific demographics, niches with your ad, or is it only a geographical reach?
Yes, absolutely. It depends on what it is. No, you can target all kinds of of things. You can target by how much money they make. You can target by how many children they have. You can target, absolutely. It just kind of depends on specifically what it is you're looking for. And I would look into each of the platform's targeting options and play around with that to see if they offer what you are looking for.
Okay, great. So we still have a ton of questions that we did not get to, so we're going to get to those through email. And in the meantime, I urge you to go over to Twitter and connect there, and also go to the Manta link on our on the resource widget and sign up for next month, and also check out our archived on-demand webinars there. So we'll see you next month. Susan, thank you so much for being here. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining. I hope you learned something today, and we'll see you on social